I bet you've read a lot of crazy stories about Crusader Kings 2. I also bet that you're trying to play the game so you can make some stories of your own. You've almost certainly found out by now that the game is complicated. Really complicated. But that's what I'm here for. You can call me Ezekiel. I'm going to be teaching you how to play Crusader Kings 2. Let's jump in.
Somebody once told me the world is gonna roll me. I ain't the sharpest tool in the shed. She was looking kind of dumb with her finger and her thumb in the shape of an L on her forehead.
Characters are at the center of Crusader Kings 2. They have attributes which represent how well they perform certain tasks. The attributes are Diplomacy, which lets you have more direct vassals and makes other characters more likely to cooperate with you. Martial, which makes you a better commander and gives you more soldiers from your holdings. Stewardship, which lets you directly control more holdings and increases your income from them. Intrigue, which makes your plots more likely to succeed. And Learning, which helps you invent new technology faster. Along with attributes, every character has traits. Traits contribute to and degrade from your attributes, and sometimes do other things, like increasing your chances of having children. Characters may choose an ambition. Ambitions are goals that, when achieved, will grant a reward. Some ambitions can't be changed once selected, so choose carefully. Speaking of things that are hard to change.
In the name of God, in the name of God, in the name of God, we come to heaven!
Every character follows a religion. Characters usually can't marry outside of their religion, and characters of different religions will have difficulty getting along. Each religion has unique mechanics. Catholic rulers, for example, can fight for the favor of the Pope and his power. There are also Zunists, who think they're from Dark Souls. They like to. Each religion has moral authority. A religion with high moral authority is stable and likely to gain new converts. A religion with low moral authority is likely to have its believers turn to heresies. If too many followers convert to a heresy, the heresy becomes the new dominant form of the religion, and the previous version becomes a heresy. A religion's moral authority is high when its followers control its holy sites and win its holy wars. Moral authority is low when the opposite is the case. Every character belongs to a dynasty. Some dynasties are ancient, with epic histories and members with many titles all throughout the world. Some dynasties are practically unheard of, and only contain you. Most characters have spouses. Certain faiths allow characters to have additional partners, be they wives for Muslims or concubines for pagans. It's also possible to have an illicit affair with a character of any sex. But there will be more on that later. Spouses help you secure alliances, administer your realm, and, most importantly, bear children. All children, bastard or legitimate, will be of their father's dynasty, unless they're from a matrilineal marriage, in which case they'll be of their mother's dynasty. Children need to be educated. This starts by giving them a childhood focus when they're young. This gives the child their childhood traits. When the child gets older, it will need an education focus. The education focus turns the childhood traits into normal ones. The game will tell you which childhood traits are best and worst for which type of education. The main result of education is the character's education trait. All characters have one. There's an education trait for each attribute, and the quality of it goes from 1 at the lowest to 4 at the highest. A character gets their education trait when their childhood ends, which is at the age of 16. If you think children are hard to deal with, just wait until you meet everyone else.
Even if you come and get him.
No, until I come and get him.
Until you come and get him, we're not to enter the room.
No. You stay in the room and make sure he doesn't leave.
All characters have opinions of each other. These opinions are influenced by attributes, traits, religion, events, and very nearly everything else. You can most easily raise or lower another character's opinion of you by swaying or antagonizing them. You can make offers to other characters by clicking on their portraits. Different options are available depending on many factors, such as faith, culture, and relative political positions. One of the most useful things you can do is arrange a marriage or betrothal with a character or their children. Marriages are for when both partners are adults, and betrothals are for when one or both partners are still children. What if instead of cooperating with someone, you want to hurt them? That's what intrigue is for.
I can't decide whether you should live or die, or you'll probably go to heaven. Please don't.
Wait, why does this sound so familiar? Oh my god.
We're off on a secret mission. We've got us a secret plan. We're going to go and slay your bro as quietly as we can. We'll sneak up and then surprise him before he has time to think. We're off
There are many different types of plots, but the most fun is a murder plot. For a plot to succeed, you need plot power. A plot can either be military or intrigue. In a military plot, plot power is gained in proportion to how militarily powerful all of the plotters are compared to the target. In an intrigue plot power is gained through the plotter's combined intrigue attributes. You can invite more plotters to your plot manually, or you can just use the auto-invite plotters toggle. The more plotters there are, the higher the chance of the plot's discovery. If you can't find enough or high-quality enough plotters, check out who's willing to be bribed. To bribe them, just send them a gift. For your own protection, make sure to enable the auto-stop plots toggle, as other characters will try to start their own plots against you. Decisions are actions you can take. The available decisions change by religion, culture, government, and many other factors. If you have prisoners, they'll show up here. You can kill them, ransom them, or let them go if you're likely to get murdered. I mean if you're nice.
Fie on goodness, fie! Fie on goodness, fie!
Events are at the center of the role-playing side of Crusader Kings 2. When an event happens, select the option you want. Having certain traits can give access to additional options for events. Certain events can be more likely to happen when you have certain traits. For example, a paranoid man will almost always think his wife has cheated on him when she becomes pregnant. While we're on the subject of affairs.
A little bit of Monica in my life, a little bit of Erica by my side, a little bit of Rita's all I need, a little bit of Tina's what I see, a little bit of Sandra in the sun, a little bit of Mary all night long, a little bit of Jessica, here I am, a little bit of you makes me your man.
Characters can choose a hobby to focus on. Options include business, war, and the infamous seduction focus. Each focus gives an attribute bonus, access to unique actions, like seducing someone, and access to unique events. There are also ways of life that help you research technology.
I give you
technology.
Technology is researched over time without character interaction. However, characters of the Duke rank and above can generate research points. Research points are generated faster based on how high your learning attribute plus one other attribute is. Your learning and martial attributes generate military research points. Your learning and stewardship attributes generate economic research points. And your learning and diplomacy attributes generate culture research points. Research points can be spent to gain technologies faster.
Camelot. 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 It's only a model. Shh.
The world is divided into holdings. Holdings have buildings inside of them that provide more money or soldiers to its ruler. You can spend money or sometimes other resources to build new buildings and improve existing ones. Holdings are found in counties. Counties are organized into duchies, which are organized into kingdoms, which are organized into empires. This information is important because it closely relates to
Oh, King, eh? Very nice. And how'd you get that, eh? By exploiting the workers. By hanging on to outdated imperialist dogma which perpetuates the economic and social differences in our society. If there's ever going to be any progress...
There's some lovely filth down here!
If a character controls a holding, they are its de facto ruler. De facto means in fact. De jure means by right or by law. De jure is often spoken about as though it's the opposite of de facto, but they are not mutually exclusive. To be the de jure ruler of the land means you are the legal owner of it, regardless of whether you actually control it. Being the de jure ruler of land makes it easy to go to war to unite any parts of it you don't control. This means that only being the de facto ruler of land is an unsafe position if someone else is the de jure ruler of it. It's best to become the de jure ruler of all of your lands as quickly as possible. To do this, you need the duchy, kingdom, or empire title of your land. A title can be made by a character who is the de facto ruler of the majority of land the title contains. The title is created by spending money and sometimes piety. If the title already exists but is held by another character, it can be usurped by becoming the de facto ruler of the majority of the title's land and then spending money and piety to usurp the title. Keep in mind that whoever you're stealing the title from won't be happy about it.
We're knights of the round table, we dance whenever we're able. We do routines, to chorus scenes, to footwork impeccable. We dine well here in Camelot, we eat ham and jam and spamalot.
Every character has their own domain. These are the holdings in the character's direct control. Holdings in your domain will use your attribute scores to determine how much money and how many levies they have. You, as its controller, will get 100% of both. Your stewardship attribute determines how many holdings you can have in your domain. The trouble is that no one has a high enough stewardship to be able to control any worthwhile amount of land. For that, you need vassals. Vassals take your land into their domain, thus managing it for you. In return, you get a portion of their income and levies. There's a limit to how many vassals you can have, which is determined by your diplomacy attribute. This means that if a vassal has to manage a large amount of land, he might need vassals of his own. This can go on for quite a few layers. Note that some types of holdings may be impossible for certain characters to control. For example, only a Republican ruler can have cities in his domain, forcing you to have Republican vassals in charge of cities. Now that we have our realm, we need to make its laws.
Welcome to Duloc, such a perfect town. Here we have some rules, let us lay them down. Don't make waves, stay in line, and we'll get along fine. Duloc is a perfect place.
Realm laws are just that. They are the laws that govern you and everyone living in your realm. Most concern the rights and duties of vassals. Depending on your realm's laws, vassals can be practically autonomous, with the power to declare wars on each other and foreign powers as they please. Or they could be little more than glorified bureaucrats. You can also change things like tax rates or how many levies are due to you from different types of vassals. You can even give women rights if you feel so inclined. If your vassals aren't happy with the realm laws or want to outright depose you, they might form a faction. A faction's power is measured by the number of potential troops its members have compared to the potential number of their liege's troops. If the faction leader feels his faction is powerful enough, he can send an ultimatum to his liege. If the liege accepts, then the change the faction wants will happen, and the faction gets disbanded. Otherwise, a civil war between the liege and the faction members commences, with the winner getting their way.
It is consequently my degrading duty to serve this upstart as First Lord of the Treasury, Lord Chief Justice, Commander-in-Chief, Lord High Admiral, Master of the Buckhounds, Groom of the Backstairs, Archbishop of Titipu, and Lord Mayor, both acting and elect, all rolled into one.
Every ruler has a council. Each position on the council contributes to a different state attribute. Your state attribute often gets used instead of your own attribute for many things, including things I've already mentioned, like domain size. Each state attribute is a total of your attribute, half of your spouse's attribute, and the appropriate counselor's attribute. Each counselor can perform special tasks. The big issue with a council is that they might be co-rulers with you. This means that, depending on the council power laws of your realm, they might be required to approve major actions, like declaring wars or granting titles. You can take power away from your council by getting them to vote for it. Obviously, the council is unlikely to approve a reduction to its own power. You could just staff your council with yes men, but they're probably not going to be the most qualified men for the job. Another consideration is that powerful vassals expect to be on the council. If they're not, then they're going to be far more willing to act rebelliously. When this happens, there might be a war.
He poisoned our water supply, burned our crops, and delivered a plague unto our houses!
He did?
No, but are we just gonna wait around until he does?
Wars in Crusader Kings 2 are a legal affair. You declare war on a character with a legally supported goal, and end it with either having corrected the supposed injustice, or with you getting your clearly corrupt butt kicked back to your own land. Here are some types of wars and the reasons that let you start them. These reasons are known as casus belli. Claim wars are for when you have a claim on someone else's land. You're supposed to get claims from your birth, but you can have your chancellor fabricate one. De jure claim wars are for when you are the de jure ruler of land that is not in your realm. And religious wars, which are for when a heathen or heretic controls land that will be far better off under your faith. When the war starts, you want to call in your allies and raise your levies. There are two sources of levies, your domain and your vassals. Raising levies from your domain will raise soldiers from your holdings. It costs money to keep these soldiers raised. Raising levies from your vassals is free, but the longer they're raised, the angrier your vassals will become since they're paying for it. You may also have a retinue. Retinues are like a primitive version of a standing army. You can raise a retinue from the retinue screen so long as you have enough retinue cap and money to support them. Finally, if you're desperate for troops, you can hire mercenaries. You'll have to spend a lot of money upfront to hire them, and then pay a monthly fee to keep them in your employ. Remember to keep a close eye on your expenses. If you have mercenaries and run out of money, they'll leave, or if you're unlucky, join the enemy. In most wars, the first thing you want to do is gather your troops in one large army and try to destroy the enemy army. To do this, you'll need to beat that army in a battle. To start a battle, both armies need to be in the same county. The army that moved to reach the other is the attacker. The defending army usually gets bonuses, so it's best to bait the opponent into attacking you. Armies are divided into 3 flanks, each with its own commander. You can make a character a commander in the minor titles screen. You assign commanders to a flank before the battle in the armies screen. Higher martial score means a better commander. Characters also have leadership traits, which are important to consider when assigning them to a flank. Combat is divided into 3 phases, with each flank independently switching between them. The phases are skirmish, melee, and pursue. Archers, light infantry, and light cavalry do best in the skirmish phase. Pikes, heavy infantry, and especially heavy cavalry do best in the melee phase. Each flank fights its opposing flank. If a flank's morale reaches 0, they'll enter a retreat, and the opposing flank will enter a pursue phase. This phase is spent killing the retreating troops. As soon as the retreating flank has escaped, the still standing flank will attack another enemy flank, gaining a bonus to its attack. This often snowballs into a victory. Once all of one side's flanks have retreated, they've lost the battle. If the army isn't destroyed outright, it'll retreat to another county. This means there might have to be multiple battles to destroy an army. Once your army is dominating the field, you can begin sieging down enemy holdings. You do this by sending your army to stand on the counties they're in, and making sure the army is larger than the holding's garrison. If you're in a rush, you can try to storm the holding in an assault. Assaults will cause horrible kill-death ratios for the attackers, and there's no guarantee it'll even succeed. To win the war, you need to gain war score. You gain war score by defeating enemy armies and capturing their holdings. Holdings are worth more if they pertain to the Casus Belli, or is the capital. Once you get enough war score, you can enforce your demands, ending the war and giving you whatever your Casus Belli was over. If the war isn't going your way, you may want to settle for a white peace. If things are going really poorly, you'll have to accept defeat and pay reparations to the enemy, or sometimes suffer even worse penalties. Let's change the subject. A great man once said,
Strange women lying in ponds distributing swords is no basis for a system of government.
Every title has inheritance laws. Inheritance law comes in 2 parts, gender law and succession law. Gender law governs whether females can inherit. The most common options are agnatic, where only males can inherit, agnatic cognatic, where females can inherit if there are no males available, and absolute cognatic, where males and females can inherit equally. The succession law most people know about is called primogeniture. This is when the eldest qualifying child inherits all titles. Other inheritance options include gavelkind, where the eldest child inherits the most important title, the next eldest inheriting the next most important title, and so on until all titles have been distributed. This is very common early in the game. It can also often cause kingdoms to break apart between multiple heirs, so it's usually best to replace it as soon as possible. Seniority is where the oldest living member of the ruler's dynasty is the heir. This one is good if your realm splits apart between multiple family members and you're trying to get it back together. It also means you're likely to have more experienced rulers, even if they don't rule for very long. Elective is where all vassals in the realm of a high enough rank get to vote for the heir of all titles. Finally, a special mention goes to my personal favorite, Tanistry. Only a small number of cultures can use it. It works the same as elective, but only members of the ruling dynasty can be candidates. This can be played in such a way that your preferred candidate always wins. With our inheritance law established, the only thing we need to do now is wait.
I am not dead yet. I can dance and I can sing. I am not dead yet. I can do the Highland thing. I am not dead yet. No need to go to bed. No need to call the doctor, cause I'm not yet dead.
He is not yet dead. That's what the geezer said.
When your character dies, you play as his heir. There's just one catch. The heir must be of your own dynasty. If the successor is not of your dynasty, then congratulations, you've lost Crusader Kings 2.
One in the head, one in the bag, bubbling. Look at the cash coming in.
This game has a ton of DLC and expansions. I'm gonna go over them now. Legacy of Rome and Way of Life are practically mandatory. Sons of Abraham, The Old Gods, Holy Fury, and Reaper's Due are highly recommended, while Monks and Mystics and Conclave are good to have. All of these are only useful if you want to play in the affected areas. The customization pack and ruler designer are only for if you want them. Lastly, the Europa Universalis 4 converter is alright, but it breaks every time new DLC or an expansion comes out. If you want the full Crusader Kings 2 experience, try waiting for a sale, and buy everything in a bundle. Your wallet will thank you. This video taught you to play using all DLC and expansions as of Holy Fury. Some game systems are barely affected by this, while others can be changed quite drastically. No matter what combination of DLCs and expansions you have, you now know everything you need to be able to play Crusader Kings 2 right away. This last part of the video will be dedicated to showcasing some of the different playstyles the game offers and recommending your first character.
1, 2, 5.
7. Kick me! Kick me! I lose!
Tribal rulers are most common early in the game. They're usually weaker than their feudal counterparts, but have other advantages, such as being followers of the Norse faith. Being Norse lets you raid from the coast, which can make you a ton of money. Note that playing a Norse ruler requires the Old Gods expansion. Tribal rulers can eventually become feudal, or even republican rulers. Speaking of which, republics require the Republic expansion to be playable. Republics are unusually powerful relative to their size because each one has 5 holdings that exist off-map. Each of these off-map holdings are controlled by one of the 5 prominent families of the Republic. Playing in a Republic means playing as the patriarch of one of these families. The families fight for control of the Republic itself, controlling only their family holdings when out of power. A bonus to playing as a Republic is that you get to witness the families getting themselves into Romeo and Juliet style shenanigans. Hordes are the last playstyle I'm going to cover. Playing as them requires the Horse Lords expansion. Hordes have some of the strongest armies in the game due to their easy access to large amounts of cavalry. They don't use levies though. Instead, they use a modified version of the retinue system, where they create a standing army by spending a unique resource, manpower, which is gained from having empty holdings. I have a single character recommendation for new players, the Count of Leix. This place. He has 2 key advantages for new players. 1, his realm is small, and he directly controls most of it, making his few vassals easy to deal with. Second is that he already has all of the land he needs to form the Duchy of Leinster, allowing him to start a de jure war for the much weaker Lygon. From there, you're free to conquer the rest of Ireland. If you really want to start with someone else, I can't stop you. There are plenty of good options out there. That was Crusader Kings 2. Feel free to ask any questions you have in the comments. I'll get back to you pretty quick. Up next, we'll learn how to play a very different medieval game. One with lots and lots of butter. See ya then.